I am. I'm VPPR at Willow Voices.
Awesome. All righty, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Everybody else who shows up can show up and join us. So welcome to tonight's presentation of Toastmasters branding. My name's Baxter Kent. Many of you already know me, but for those of you who don't, I'm a past District 2 director. My year was the 2019-2020, so right in the midst of the COVID year. And I'll bet you're wondering why I'm presenting the branding presentation and training. Well, let me tell you a little bit about my background. I've been a Toastmaster since 2009, and right from the get-go, I jumped into leadership. Starting out as VP Education, not VP PR or Sergeant at Arms or any of the other roles. However, I have been in almost every role at least twice. Now, as VP PR, that's our responsibility in that role to promote our clubs and promote the Toastmasters brand. And by doing it within the branding guidelines, I actually started to really dig into the protocols and policies of Toastmaster and their branding requirements. Not only have I been in every leadership role, I've also been the Starburst editor for roughly the last 3 years. And if you've ever submitted anything to me, you might have seen me kick it back to you if it didn't fit the Toastmaster branding. And we'll get into a little bit of that about why later on in this presentation. So let's get started by taking a look at what we're going to talk about. So we're going to talk about what the importance of brand recognition is. Why are there branding guidelines, and why must we protect the Toastmasters International brand? We'll understand a little bit about the importance of brand recognition and providing consistent brand experiences. We'll also talk about the visual elements and the experiences. So that's two sides of the branding coin. It's not just about what we see visually. And you'll learn how to apply the branding guidelines to ensure that we have a consistent brand experience for all our members and prospective members. And then finally, we'll review the guidelines, digging a little bit deeper so that you understand what the different elements are and where to find information that we can identify what the best practices are for our clubs and the district. So let's get started a little bit. The importance of brand recognition. What is a brand? So a brand is really the identity of an organization. It's not just the logo. It's not just a tagline. It's not even just the name of the company, but it's everything about who you are, whether you sell a product, a service, or have some concept that you publicly put out there that distinguishes you from every other product, service, or concept. It's the organization's identity, who you are and why you matter, and what you provide to your customer base. So two sides to a brand. I mentioned this, it's two sides to the coin. And I like to, when I envision this for Toastmasters, I like to think about the leadership coin that they created a few years ago. There's two sides to it. The first side is the visual elements. This is everything that we see about Toastmasters, about the logo, the name, the word marks, the colors even. And then there's the experiences. And yes, we have experiences that I'll bet you if you visit every Toastmaster club around the world, you'll see that there are elements that are the same, and you should come to expect those same experiences in every one of our clubs. And I can tell you from my own experience, anytime I take a vacation, I try to visit a club in that area. And I know exactly what to expect. Now, does every club deliver on that expectation? Most of the time. They each have their own characteristics that they include that may not be what every other club has. So brand visualization. I want you to take a minute to write in chat a few of the products or organizations that you have brand loyalty to, strong brand loyalty. What comes to mind when you think about those brands? And then very briefly, what's an example of a consistent experience that you have with that brand? And positive experience, because I know there are some brands out there that we might not have positive experiences with. I can see some pondering. Amazon, Fred Meyer, McDonald's, Apple, Hagen Foods, Toyota, Coke. I'm not familiar with Dillon Precision, but I can probably guess what that's all about. Awesome.
Well, you're not a reloader, so you wouldn't know about that, but they've got quite a reputation in the shooting community.
You know, I probably would have guessed that just knowing who you are, Richard. So we're going to play a little game. I'm going to show you some logos, and I've got a disclaimer. Each of these logos are owned by the companies they represent, and they're being used just for educational purposes only. Now, what I want you to do is unmute, and when you see them, I want you to just call out who they are.
Starbucks.
Starbucks.
Yep, Starbucks. Yep. And perhaps you remember that because it's great coffee, maybe not. The
Because
atmosphere of the restaurant.
Because it has the word Starbucks right there.
Yes, exactly. And maybe you remember them and had a great experience because you meet your friends there on occasion. How about this next one?
Apple.
Yep, Apple. They create computers. Maybe you have an iPhone. If you remember the music devices that aren't so used anymore, the iPods, maybe that's how you remember them. How about this one?
Nike.
Yep, Nike. Just do it. Enough said. And now, how about this one? McDonald's, yeah. So McDonald's, you know, inexpensive meals. Prior to COVID, quick service. On their sign, it says more than 2 billion hamburgers sold. You know what I learned about McDonald's when I started looking at businesses and thinking about how businesses advertise? They're actually not in the food business. You know what business they're in? Real estate. Think about where they're located, right? They purchase or lease places that are centrally located. Everybody can get to them. But every McDonald's you walk into, you're going to expect a certain level of interaction, and that's chances are what you're going to get. So let's talk about brand stewardship. You know, we've talked a little bit about what branding is and the two sides of the branding coin. And both of these topics really tie into the stewardship of a brand. Basically, it's protecting the brand. And everyone involved in Toastmasters, whatever we say and do when we're in a Toastmaster environment or talking about Toastmasters, represents the Toastmaster International brand. And we have a fiduciary and legal responsibility to protect our brand. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, in the business world as a whole, if we are challenged legally and we don't prove that we are good stewards of our brand, we can lose some of the elements that identify us and set an expectation for both our members and potential members about who Toastmasters is and what we stand for. So that's talking about diluting the brand, right? That means that we can't create logos that are club specific or district specific. We can't start changing it to suit our needs without approval from world headquarters. The other thing is, for example, on the sphere of public speaking ad, the one thing that kind of dilutes the brand a bit is that we're being shown right next to Facebook. Now, on the surface, that might not seem to be a problem, but then it begins to tie our brands together, which also is a problem for Facebook, quite frankly. So the brand promise is that this is what we stand for as an organization, right? We're empowering individuals through personal and professional development. That's what the brand does. It empowers us all to do, to provide the experience, the consistent experience with our members and potential members and the community at large. You know, in the last couple of weeks, I've been asked several times, well, what is Toastmasters again? And I really have to be careful when I answer that question that I'm not diluting the brand when I talk about what Toastmasters is and what it isn't. So let's dig a little deeper into the guidelines. So as I talked about, there are the visual elements. All of these logos here at the top are Toastmaster International approved logo uses, as is the word marks down here, and that's the Toastmasters International word marks, the color palette, and the approved fonts. Now, I mentioned that as part of the leadership role I've selected in our district, I do the Starburst. And I try to make sure that all of the colors that I use in the Starburst, all the fonts that I use are all in line with the Toastmasters branding. Now, I just noticed that one of the things that I don't use is when I highlight dates and times, I want to make it a little bit more obvious what the date and time of events are. So I'm not using this color palette so as not to confuse it with the timing. Now, I'm going to show you some sorry. So the tagline, where leaders are made. The tagline is for the entire organization. It communicates one of the benefits our organization provides. So if you think about your experience in the Toastmaster world, what are some examples of our branded products? Go ahead and just call them out.
Well, formerly it was the manuals.
Mm-hmm. Yep. What else?
It's the pathway
About the-
system.
Pathway system. How about the magazine? Now, granted,
Yeah.
I don't know how many people are still receiving the hard copy magazine, but it's online now.
Yeah, there's the website and the whole Basecamp system too.
Mm-hmm. So club, district, and international website. How about social media platforms? You know, all of our Facebook pages now that are up for districts and maybe even our YouTube channel. But there's also banners and badges, which I normally wear my badge when I'm leading a training. I'm not tonight. Coffee mugs. You know, one of the things that I purchased at the last TI convention in Nashville was a branded portable power bank, because I had left mine at home and I was finding my phone was dying pretty quickly. Their power banks actually are pretty awesome, and they're branded. So here's some examples of incorrect uses of the logo. And here are things that we shouldn't alter in any way. And these are all representative of it going from left to right, top to bottom. Don't change any element of the logo. So you can see that the world lines are missing. Don't change the colors. Don't create or customize logos for clubs and districts. Don't use any copy, slogans, symbols, or other images overlapping the logo. Don't tilt it. Don't disproportionately scale it. Don't put it in a perspective. Don't change the proportion of the different elements to each other. Don't put it on a color background that's not brand, part of the brand palette. Don't put the solid shadow drop on it. Don't put a pattern glow behind it. And definitely don't put it on non-branded graphics. All of these are examples of how the logo should not be used. And one of the other things that frequently gets changed, if you will, when I get submissions for the Starburst, is we need to use high quality photos. And why that is to present a professional image, right? So there's no clip art that can be used, no hand drawings or anything like that. We need to use photos so that we display that professional image of Toastmasters. Now, in some cases, when I've received clip art, I'll go out and I'll look for photos that are similar to the theme that the club is trying to portray, and use a quality photo so that it can be used. Otherwise, I just leave the image out. Now, there are photos available on the Toastmasters International website in the brand portal. However, they might not always fit your event, but they are TI approved. So now let's dig a little bit more into the brand guidelines. Now, I went through some of those guidelines pretty quickly. And what we're going to see next is some examples that I'm going to ask you, are they properly branded or not? How about this one? Is this properly branded? Yeah, you're right, Richard, right off the get-go. So the reason this one isn't right is it's a club logo and we're not allowed to use them. It disconnects us from the Toastmasters branding, can cause confusion out there. How about this one?
No, the font.
That should be okay.
It's not though, and I'll tell you why. The font is not the appropriate font. If we change the font to one of the approved fonts, this would absolutely be okay. How about this one? Is it properly branded? The color is on brand, the logo is on brand, and the font are on brand. Those are all acceptable. And it's okay to have a club name or a district name appear above, below, or beside the logo. This was a little tricky one. In order to do this, though, in order to actually go out and produce this item, you need to submit a trademark use request and receive approval from World Headquarters before you can actually produce the item. Because if we don't, we risk putting TI in jeopardy of losing their branding, right? It opens up the organization as a whole to liability for misuse. How about this one? Is this on brand? The color's correct.
Not sure about the logo. I need to go back a couple slides and check.
Yeah, the logo is actually correct.
I'm sorry, the font.
I believe the font is correct.
It's, I
That's
think the font's
Arial.
correct. I would kind of think it's not, because it's not clearly differentiating the Toastmaster from the corporation. If it said Acme Corporation Toastmasters, that'd be okay, I think.
So it's because the logo appears in direct competition with another business's name or logo. When we use this on, say, a co-sponsored agenda, they must be totally separated. So opposite sides of the agenda. Now, if you're ever in doubt, you can send an email to brand@toastmasters.org and find out. How about this one? Is this on brand? I see Joyce shaking her head. No, why not?
I believe just the way they have Toastmasters International, it's not using the colors the way we do. I think, and then putting it into a club form
Nope.
or a club announcement.
That's good analysis, but no. What makes this not properly branded is the clip art.
Aye.
Everything else is on color and font is appropriate. To make this properly branded, all you need to do is remove the clip art. And then it's perfectly fine. Now, I will tell you, all of these examples I pulled directly out of the brand portal. So if they're wrong, then it's Toastmasters International's fault, not mine. All right. Is this picture? I'm gonna describe this situation for you. This is a picture Gianni took when she attended a local Toastmasters meeting as a guest 2 weeks ago. When telling her husband about it later that evening, she said that parts of the meeting were interesting, but at times she found herself wondering what would come next. She still has a lot of questions, but probably won't go back. So is this a properly branded meeting? And if
No.
not,
No,
what
old
about it
banner.
isn't?
Banner's old.
The old logo.
What else?
The lectern seems to be missing the Toastmasters logo,
Mhm.
Yes.
and they're using the old educational material.
Yep. And that's in this particular instance, that's okay because those are properly branded material.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
Can you,
However, yes,
excuse me,
Joyce.
can you use a lectern that doesn't have any brand on it? It's just a lectern?
You could, but there is something specific about this lectern that is not on brand from an experience perspective.
There's nobody behind it.
There's nobody at the lectern, nobody conducting the meeting, right? So
Mhm.
it's very clear why she doesn't know what's happening because nobody's directing the meeting at this point. Now, the other thing is nobody explained what was happening during the meeting and no one gave her a guest packet or followed up with her after the meeting. And there doesn't appear to be an agenda anywhere in here, even for the members that are there, right? So here's another situation. When visiting family last month, Arvin attended his cousin Benji's weekly Toastmasters meeting as a guest. Everyone was very friendly and obviously got along well, and they even had a delicious food buffet. Benji was in charge of the meeting and also had to give feedback on 2 of the speeches, so he was very busy. Arvin didn't mind though, because he ended up getting restaurant tips from 2 of the other members who used to live in the city he just moved to. Arvin appreciated the relaxed environment of the club and was relieved that no one tried to sell him on joining. He's looking forward to visiting a club in his new city. So what about this? Is this properly branded or not?
Yes, it
So
is.
remember, there's
So,
visual,
yeah.
sorry, Greg.
Yep.
ahead.
Yeah, it is. You got the logo up there with the proper colors. There's a logo on the front of the lectern. Somebody's at the lectern. That's one of the first things I learned at Toastmasters is
never leave the stage empty.
Right.
And people appear to have an agenda, but I mean, it's not clear from the, oh, and people are wearing name tags too, which is awesome.
Yep. So those are all visual elements, but the experience of this was not on brand. First, there weren't enough role players. Now, we all know with the way our clubs are, a lot of our clubs are right now, we don't have enough members even to field a full agenda. So I think we could cut a little bit of slack for that. But no one asked Arvin to join or even gave him any information about it, about joining in his new city even. Now, all clubs should deliver an excellent and consistent experience to all its members and guests. And you enhance the Toastmaster mission by doing that. Now, you won't disappoint anyone who comes in contact with Toastmasters if you consistently do every element of a Toastmaster meeting, because they'll know what to expect. But if every club provided a different experience and didn't explain anything, Arvin's not going to know when he visits clubs in his new city what to really expect, right? So if every club presents an agenda, even if there's small things different about the agenda in their club to make it their own character, at least that there's an outline that every club is following, right? So there are many resources online, and the brand portal is a great place to start. I'll have some links at the end of the presentation, and I'll pause long enough that you can take a screenshot to see. Not only do I have links, I tell you how to get there without the link, so that'll help. You know, and if you wanted to create something to use in your club, you know, to promote your club, to promote an event, what should you do to verify that it's on brand? Or what can you do?
Contact TI headquarters.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Check the branding portal in the Toastmaster site.
Absolutely. And if you're creating something like an engraved award or something, completing the trademark use request form prior to actually creating it. All right, so the next screen is going to be somewhat of an eye chart, but you can find this form on the branding portal. And it's a branding assessment, right? It's being able to take this short form. There's only 3 sections to this form, and looking at your club and going, okay, are we following the branding guidelines? Are we creating a consistent environment and a consistent experience for everybody who visits our club? Now you can look at, are the things that we are using in our meetings, the lectern, the banner, the agenda, are they on brand? And then think of ways that the brand might not be optimized for your club. Maybe look at your club website if your club has one, or the Facebook page for your club. And then see what you can do to make them come back into alignment with the Toastmasters branding. Now, I really tried to slow this down so that it was a good use of your time, but I'm now at Q&A. So Joyce, I see your hand raised.
So I am in a club that our banner is the old banner, and we have not yet gotten a new one. We have talked about it. It just hasn't happened. Are we better off if we're meeting in person not to even display the banner if it's the old one?
If you're meeting in person, I think it would be walking a very thin line, because all of those old banners should be gone by now. Right? And even when you get your new banner, you can still display your old banner, but it needs to take a back seat to the new banner, right? That's honoring the past by having it still be there. Without having a new banner, Yeah, I would suggest sending an email off to branding and find out.
Okay,
They'll probably encourage you to buy a new banner. Now, on Zoom, there are digital downloads of banners that you can modify so that you can put your club name on them and have them as a background.
okay.
So when you're doing it virtually, you can have that banner there.
My personal opinion, I like the old one better anyway, but I understand.
Michael,
Yes, we wouldn't need to put in a request for branding usage if we're getting a plaque, say, ordered directly from the from TI from the
that's
store.
correct. Yeah,
Okay.
that's correct. If you're ordering it directly from them, then it's already been approved through the branding.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Greg has one.
Oh,
Yeah.
can't see his hand. Sorry.
That's okay. Regarding the banner, we've got the new banner in our club, but our club's also been around for a long time. And as such, we've accumulated a whole bunch of those ribbons about,
Sure.
presidents select and all that kind of thing. Are there branding guidelines about how many of those ribbons we should really have there? Because there's quite a lot.
There isn't. And from what I have seen, there is no rule for removing those ribbons, even with the old branding or old logo on them.
Okay.
I know one club who's been around, I think they've been around 22 years now. What they actually did was they removed the ribbons from their banner and
Mhm.
put them on a separate display
Okay.
so that it gave them more room and they could actually display their ribbons without crowding the logo on the banner.
Okay. I had a second question too, just completely
Sure.
unrelated. Put on your editor hat for a second. What is the current submission deadline for the Starburst?
5 p.m. Friday.
5 p.m. Friday. Okay, thanks.
Yep. Any other questions? Rick, two. I don't know if two is still with us because she did say she had another meeting. Okay. I'm going to drop a link in the chat for it's a feedback survey for this. If you all wouldn't mind filling it out while I continue on. So for branding, the importance of the brand recognition is that we need to maintain a consistency in how we use the visual elements and how we present Toastmasters in all our meetings and in all our interactions regarding Toastmasters. The two sides of the branding coin, all clubs and districts should adhere to the branding guidelines and use only what's approved from a logo, color palette, fonts, etc. perspective. And then the branding guidelines themselves. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. TI has created materials for members and clubs to use and posted them on the website in the brand portal. I'm going to pause on this screen here so you can take a screenshot if you want to. In the governing documents, that's the overarching governing documents for all of Toastmasters, specifically under policy 4.0, the intellectual property. This kind of describes why we need to adhere to the branding. And you can get to them either when you get a copy of this presentation by clicking on the link or following these steps. And these steps are based on the new Toastmaster website navigation. And again, the branding portal. Branding portal has everything that you could want related to branding, including professional, high quality images, business cards, so that if you wanted to create business cards for your club officers, agendas, all the paper stuff. You can find all of that here. And then if you have any questions that you think I might be able to answer, and honestly, I don't know all the answers. My answer might be to you. You'll need to reach out to World Headquarters. Here's my email address. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to answer questions or find the answers or direct you to where you can find the answers.
Hey, Baxter,
Yes,
the
sir.
link to the survey is not working. You'll get an oops error.
Oh, hey, Linda.
Let me work on fixing that then.
Okay,
Okay, thank you. Because I just dropped the link to the survey in there. Greg has his hand up and then Michael.
no, that was just about the survey.
Oh, perfect. Michael.
Yeah, for speeches within your club, if people use PowerPoint with their speech, are they under the same brand restrictions? Means
Yes.
okay.
Yes, with a caveat. They can get the templates for the PowerPoints off the website so that the color and the fonts are on brand. Absolutely. And actually, that might not be a bad thing for them because it will set an expectation for how professional their PowerPoints will be. I know a lot of folks who do use the PowerPoints are using it specifically for practicing work presentations. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen now. Any other questions? Oliver, welcome. Happy to have you here, but we're almost done.
Yeah.
This went a little. This went a little faster than I anticipated, so I apologize. We did record it though.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All righty. If there are no other questions, we got, with the exception of two, I think, we've got your email addresses from the registration. We'll send the link out to the survey for you.
That's good. Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for coming. Greatly appreciate it and appreciate the interaction that you provided.
Thank you, Baxter. That's
Yeah, thanks,
that's
Baxter.
really good material.
Yeah, thank you. Very
Thank you.
interesting.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thanks,
have a good
Baxter.
night, all. Mhm.
Try that link if you would, please.
That works.
Okay, very good.
Yep, that
Jackpot.
was all my fault. As a matter of fact, I don't even know if the survey that I gave you, I don't even remember creating one for tonight. I think it might have been from an old email that I sent Baxter. I didn't read carefully enough, so oops.
That's all right. Toastmasters is a learning opportunity every time.
In our playground. So thank you, Baxter, so much. When you said yes, you would do this training, my heart just leapt. I was like, yay. This is one of my favorite trainings ever. Branding is so important. And I super appreciate your taking the time to prepare and to train all of us tonight. Thank you. So I wanted to let everybody know what I say, the same thing at every club officer training, that in fact, if you are here for the club officer training, regardless of how many roles for club officers that you might hold, even if it's 2 hats or 3 hats for different roles, all those roles will get credit for the fact that you were here and will count towards both the Super 7 $70 if in fact, all 7 officer roles in your club are trained. And also, if 4 or more are trained from your club, then that qualifies you for your DCP, your club, Distinguished Club Program goal will be met. So yay, thank you for being here. Spread the word. The second round of training goes to February 28th. And we've got some really great training coming up. We've had some great training. We also have some great training coming up. I just found out that the training on Saturday, which is, I believe, if I remember correct, it's from 11 to 12:30 on Saturday by Randy Wynn. We are going to have Udly, which you might have heard. Udly is our new AI. I haven't used it, I have to say, but it's the new AI speech analyzer. And we're going to have them come in and give a short presentation during the club officer training on Saturday. And the club officer training Saturday is all about recruitment and retention. So how can we bring them in and keep them? So I think it's going to be a super interactive and a really fun training. So tell your friends, tell your club officers, let's get everybody trained in this round of club officer training. And with that, feel free if you are compelled to leave. You don't need to say goodbye or anything, but I think we are concluded for the night.
Yeah. We had a representative from Udly talk about Udly at my club meeting on Thursday. So that was quite interesting. He did a short demonstration of Udly in action. So we got to see it analyze a short sample speech from him. So.
Cool.
Which actually reminds me that number one, I didn't know Udly was a startup out of Seattle, which I was excited to hear about that.
Yeah.
No idea. Yeah, they're right there in Fremont. And number two, there's a game, there's a group, and people are coming and playing the Udly game. And I can't describe what it's like because I haven't done it yet, but I'm excited to hear more about it. Because I'm like, yeah, how do you, but he said we couldn't demonstrate it because everybody has to share their screen and it's a club officer training. It's not a game per se, but I'm excited to learn about the game because I think that would be a great enhancement for Toastmasters. So
Can you
I'm
put the link to
excited.
that in the chat?
Udly?
Yeah.
It's actually when you log into Toastmasters, it's right there on the front of your screen.
Yeah,
I
your
don't know how else to
homepage
say
should
it.
have it if you scroll down on your homepage.
Yeah, there's a Toastmasters version, Greg, that we're being given for free. So we're the fortunate users of. I can't tell you what the difference is, to be honest, but we have a Toastmasters version of Udly. That's YOODLI. That's how I say Udly.
All right, thanks.
Feel free to turn the recording off, Baxter, and then sometimes people have questions that they just they were waiting.
Oh, I have to go. Oh,